Another day! um, so, medyo mommy mode tayo today kasi I'd like to share with you kung paano ko ba na manage yung very many paperworks ng aking family. And syempre kung may other tips kayo, I would really appreciate it. I've found a very good process for me, pero kung my other mommies in the same scenario as me, I would really appreciate your help then if there's anything I can improve. So basically, like I said, like you all know, I'm Filipina. I am married to a French national, but we started our life in the United States. So I met my husband in the US, we got married in the US, we had our first child in the US as well. From there, we moved to the Philippines, spent some time in the Philippines, I think about 4 years. And then from the Philippines, we moved to France. So now we're here in France. So if you can imagine how many visas and administrative paperwork we had to already go through ever since we basically built or established our family. And I've always had to make sure na up to date lahat ng aming mga documents. So I'm holding just a very crucial example here. These are the passports. There's only 3 of us. We only have 1 child. So ako, si husband, and my son. Pero we have 4 different passports right now, because of course I have my passport, I have my husband's passport, and my son has 2 passports. Of course, he has the US passport because he was born in the United States. Tapos, he's entitled to a French passport then because his dad is a French national basically. So right now, 4 silang mini-maintain ko in terms of making sure up-to-date sila lahat. On top of that, I mentioned in my previous vlog then, I have like 3 different birth certificates ng anak ko. 1 from the US, 1 from the Philippines, 1 from here in France. The same for our marriage certificate. We have 1 from the US, PH, and then France. And then, of course, nagpa-pile up lang yan ng nagpa-pile up. I also need to make sure na up-to-date yung social security number namin. Of course, I keep my social security number sa Pilipinas pa rin. And then, yung social security number namin sa United States. And then, dito sa France. And then, yung driver's license namin parehong mag-asawa. Mga ID naming 3 needs to be up-to-date. So, sobrang daming paperwork na kailangang up-to-date. And hindi birong mag-renew ng lahat ng to kasi they're from different countries. Maybe yung mga based in France or kung nasaan man kami at a certain point, medyo mas madali siyang i-renew. Pero yung iba, if you can imagine, for example, para sa US passport ng anak ko, we need to go to the US Embassy dito sa Paris. Sa PH passport ko, I had to go to the Philippine Embassy. So may madaming back and forth ng documents and stuff. So, medyo complicated siya. And whenever nakakailanganin naming maglakad ng papeles, we're always not sure kung enough ba yung documents na dala namin. I think it's not just special sa situation namin. Halos lahat naman ng mga kailangan mag-deal with administrative paperwork. I'm sure you can testify na kung ano man yung nakalagay sa checklist, kalahati lang nun yung talagang required nila. Meron pang mga additional ones. So what I found worked for me are various tips that I'm going to share with you throughout the video, of course. So, meron akong 3 major tips na i-share for today. Pero within those tips, may mga sub-minor tips and advice akong gustong i-share din sa inyo. So, first, physical and digital copies are both important. So, make sure meron ka both physical and digital copies. Physical would make it easy for you to provide yung mga documents na yun kasi most of the time, physical naman talaga na document yung kailangan ng mga administrations. Pero digital makes sure na nandyan siya if may mga scenarios like siguro nawala mo yung physical copy or I don't know, hopefully not, pero baka nasunugan kayo ng bahay or whatsoever, or nawala mo yung folder mo. So you need to make sure na meron ka always physical and digital copy. So that's number 1. For digital copy, I use an app called Cam Scanner. I'm gonna try to put it somewhere here. My editing skills are so bad, so bear with me. But I use an app called Cam Scanner, which has been so helpful for me. And I highly recommend to have an online drive or an online folder that you can easily access. In case na makorrupt yung inyong laptop or phones, at least meron kang mobile version or version in the cloud. So I suggest na mag-invest ka in a specific drive. Hindi naman kailangan sobrang laki kasi documents lang naman yun, hindi naman videos yung isi-save mo, diba? So you can easily get free drives if you register to an email service provider. For example, Google would have a Google Drive, Outlook would have an Outlook Drive, and something like that. So I use Google Drive personally, and I have all of my digital files ng lahat ng crucial documents namin doon sa aking drive. And then at the same time, I also keep track of my physical documents, of course, both originals and copies, which will lead us to the next tip, which is foldering. It's very important na meron kang proper foldering para you can also organize yourself. So when I say foldering, make sure na meron kang mga proper folders and labels, both dun sa inyong digital copies and yung inyong mga physical copies. So for the digital copy, I'm gonna try to show you right here kind of how it looks like. So let's put it right here. This is an example of what I have. So that's for the digital copies and how I do the folders inside my drive. And then it's exactly the same way for the physical copies. So I have this folder with like different segments, sub-segments. Ew. I don't know if you can see yan. Pero may iba-iba siyang segments, and then I have labeled them as well depending on what they have. So only the crucial documents are in here. What I like to do is keep this folder where it's easily accessible, and my husband and I refer to this folder as our takeaway folder. So whenever we have an administrative na appointment for visa or sa bangko or kung ano man yan, ito yung folder na tatangayin namin anytime, and we know na nandito lahat ng mga critical na documents. So what's in here, I cannot show kasi may mga private na stuff. So what's in here basically are yung original copy ng each of the critical documents. I will give you a list of what I refer to as critical documents down below as well. So I have an original copy of each of those plus one photocopy of each of them. So isa lang. That way yung folder mo is not too packed. At saka hindi siya nakakalulang tingnan kapag ka nagpasa ka. Kasi sometimes, kunwari pupunta ka sa bangko, hindi mo sure kung ano yung mga kailangan na checklist or kung may additional checklist ba. Biglang, pag inas ka ng additional documents, madali mo siyang mahahanap kasi may label ka. At the same time, alam mo na mga importanteng document lang yun nandito, walang mga trash or mga outdated. Yun ang isa pa. Make sure na updated lahat nung files na nandito sa inyong takeaway folder. So keep in mind, one original copy and one duplicate or one photocopy ng document dapat nandito sa inyong file para ready to use siya. And then, tuwing gagamitin nyo si takeaway folder, kunwari may pinull out kayong isang photocopy or photocopy ng birth certificate at saka isang marriage certificate, always refill it. So make sure na up to date lahat, make sure na may one photocopy for each of the original documents all the time. Para ikaw mismo, kampante ka na kapag kinuha ko tong folder na to, this is really pretty much all I would need for me to have all of whatever the checklist they'd give me. So, yun yung lagi namin ginagawa ni husband is make sure na this folder is up to date. So, I highly recommend to have a takeaway folder then, something similar to a takeaway folder para easy access to sa inyo. Ayan. Lalo na, in my case, for example, I do all of this segmentation, labeling folder, and stuff like that. My husband, of course, is not very good in this kind of stuff, like paperwork and things like that. So, he tends to forget. Pero since we moved to France, siya yung majority na nagpa-process ng lahat. Even pag-enroll ng anak namin, honestly, si husband ang gumagawa. Kasi syempre, France, they only speak French. Kaya siya mismo yung gumagawa ng mga paperwork. And it could be overwhelming for him to go through a big pile of documents kapag kahinanapan siya, kunwari, kung saan man yung appointment niya. So, this has been very helpful for him din. Kasi sometimes kahit wala ako, I'm busy at work or something, alam niya na he can rely on this takeaway folder kasi andito na lahat ng mga major documents namin. Ayan. So, we have the takeaway folder and then we have another folder which is bigger kumbaga, pero same din siya. Malaking folder siya na may mga different segments sa loob, ganyan. And what we put in here would be additional copies ng mga critical. Pero, I highly recommend na kung yung document ninyo is mag-expire or may expiration, don't make too much copies. This is why you should also have a digital copy para madali lang gumawa ng other copies later on. Pero what we like to do is put additional copies here dun sa mga, kunwari, ano bang example? Yung birth certificate ko sa Philippines, for example, hindi naman siya nag-expire. Or yung marriage certificate namin sa Philippines, sa US, hindi din siya nag-expire. Kaya, may photocopies kami nun dito kasi we know na kakailanganin siya. And pag kakailanganin siya, meron na kaming ready copy sa folder na to. Now, yung mga mag-expire like passports and IDs, ganyan, I try to make mga 3 copies maximum lang per ID, per passport, ganyan. Kasi syempre, ayaw mo naman ng sobrang dami. And then, yun yung gagamitin mo to refill your key takeaway folder later on. Kapag ka may ginamit ka sa key takeaway folder, at least may ready ka ng photocopies na i-refill dito. I also have another folder which I won't show you kasi medyo mas malaki siya. Basically, yung folder na yon are just documents na expired. So, lahat ng na-expire na original documents ay nasa isang folder din siya. Kasi you'll never know, baka hindi mo siya kailangan at a short period of time, pero later on, eventually, you will need it. That has happened to me so much, especially when I started processing my visa application to come here to France kasi may mga documents na kinailangan. Even for my citizenship, kunwari, kailangan ng mga proof of residence mo for the past 10 years, ganyan. So, yung mga kontrata ko dun sa bahay sa Philippines, for example, kahit na outdated na siya and I probably won't need it here in France just that one time, at least nandun siya. Yung mga previous stamp mo sa mga older passports, baka hanapin din siya eventually. Hinanap actually siya sa akin dun sa French embassy when I applied for my visa kasi they needed a proof na paano ba to? They needed a proof na nasa States kami when we got married together, kaming pareho ni husband. Parang ganun, hindi ko na maalala. Pero they needed a proof na we were in the same country on the date of our marriage together, parang ganyan. So, you'll never know, so might as well keep them where you can easily access them. Pero, make sure na you don't mix it up with your current documents para hindi ka din malito. Again, labeling is important. And then, since meron kang folder for expired or outdated documents, you can do the same kung meron ka pang extra space sa inyong drive. You can do the same. You can have a folder dedicated to just expired documents para nandun lang sila in case you need them later on. So, that's how I do the foldering or the segmenting of my paperwork. Very important and has been very helpful for us talaga. And then my last tip for the day is calendar. Make a calendar of all of the expiration nung mga documents ninyo na nag-expire or may expiration date. Most especially the passports kasi syempre it's very critical. Like I said, with me, madali siya kung single ka lang, isa lang yung passport mo maintain. Pero with me, I have to maintain 4 different passports. And of course, they all won't expire the same day. So it's not safe to say na, okay, around November, I need to renew all 4 passports, ganyan. Actually, hindi safe gawin yung lahat ng passport ng family mo mag-expire the same day. It could be a headache kung lahat-lahat sila sabay-sabay mong kailangang asikasuhin. So, yes, make sure sure na you have a calendar of all of the expiration dates. What I like to do, kasi makakalimutin din ako, is I always send a calendar invite to my husband. Okay, so using my email, I send a calendar invite to my husband, I don't know, for passport, for example, 4 months before sila mag-expire. Para makaka-receive kami parehong mag-asawa ng alert kapag it's time na to renew the passports. Kasi usually you can renew your passports only 3 months ahead of the expiration date. So I do it a month before para may time ako mag-gather ng documents, mag-prepare ng requirements, ganyan. So put that in a calendar or somewhere where you can remember, pero I highly recommend to do it digitally. And kung may some sort of reminder kayo, maybe calendar is not the best option for you, baka may alam kang better tool to track yourself, basta may alert siya, even better, para mano-notify ka when it's time for you to do that. So, critical for passports, I always, as soon as ma-receive ko, kunwari, say for example, my son's US passport is expiring this November. So, I have a calendar invite 4 months before November to start gathering documents. Maybe during this COVID season, you wanna do it a bit more ahead, just to anticipate. So I have a calendar invite 4 months before November to start renewing the passport of my son for the from the US. And then as soon as I receive the new passport na makukuha ko from the renewal, I already will put a calendar invite to myself 4 months before the expiration of that new passport, para hindi ko na siya makakaligtaan. Kasi years yung bibilangin mo, it's easy to forget, lalo kung hindi mo naman siya frequently ginagamit. Like for my son's case, hindi naman niya gaano ginagamit yung US passport niya kasi when we travel, we would often use his French passport lately kasi madalas sa Europe lang naman kami nagta-travel. So, it's nice to have that notification para lang to be sure na hindi mo siya makakalimutan. I do the same thing for our driver's license, for example, pero luckily here in France, mahaba-haba yung kanilang expiration for the driver's license. So mine is like 30 years if I'm not mistaken. Baka hindi ko na siya i-renew. Baka by then hindi na dapat ako nagda-drive. I don't know. Baka bulag na ako nun. Anyways, so yes, make sure you have a calendar invite of those renewal processes that you have to do. Same goes for the visa for me, for example, kasi naka-visa lang ako dito sa France. So X months before my visa expires, I have a calendar invite for myself to start processing that one. Well, yung sa akin is medyo mahaba. I have a 10 years residence permit naman sa France. So, yung calendar invite ko is matagal-tagal pa. Pero it's good to have that. So yes, that's very important. Calendar of all of the expiring documents para you can keep track of it. So those are my top tips for you to maintain all of your administrative documents as a mommy like me from very crazy paperwork background. That's what I try to do, at least. So yeah, I think I've gathered pretty much everything. I mean, I've shared pretty much everything. If there's anything that you'd like to know more in depth, please do let me know in the comment section below. And I also would appreciate your feedback kung meron man kayong feedback. Kung may mga mommies like me na medyo nag-i-struggle sa mga napakadaming papeles out there, I would very much love to talk to you, to hear your thoughts. Baka meron kayong masuggest that I can better improve. So yeah, I hope naging helpful yung ating topic for today. And good luck sa mga mommies out there who's trying to process some kind of paperwork for their families, for themselves as well. And always remember na ang key point dito is to anticipate as much as possible that if you're given a list of requirements, try to be beyond that list kasi there's always additional information they could ask from you. So anticipate the worst case scenario para you are well prepared. So yeah, that's it for today. Thank you again for listening or watching, and hope you all have a good day.